All right, man. Let us start at the beginning. Young Zach Lowery, teenager, child, dreaming of what he's going to be when he grows up. What did you think you were going to do?
So I was born and raised just north of New Orleans in Louisiana, a little small town called Ponchatoula, about 40 minutes north of New Orleans. Yeah.
Okay.
Grew up doing Louisiana things, going camping, walking in the woods and the creeks, stuff like that. Played tons of sports growing up, lots of basketball, track, ran cross country, did taekwondo, like all kinds of like get outside, go play sports, do that type of stuff. And I think growing up, I always kind of had this desire to just find something fun to do. And I think that kind of navigated me throughout many different ideas as to what I wanted to be when I grew up. And
Okay.
yeah, yeah, it always was like, I tell the story sometimes like my dad worked his butt off providing for us, and we never went without. We never had a ton, but he always made sure we had what we needed, and he worked so hard. Uh, but you could tell, he just hated his job, but he was doing it because he had to provide for the family, stuff
Yep.
like that. So I think I saw that at an early age, respected it tremendously at an early age, but started to think about like, well, how do you get a job that you like? Right. Like, and then you start going down that rabbit hole of like, does the guy that's a fireman like being a fireman? Does
Yeah.
this guy like his job? And you start realizing that, like, at some point, if you don't start thinking about how to do something that you want to do, that you eventually get into a situation where you're just like, oh, I've got bills to pay. I guess I'll just do this thing because it's going to pay the bills. So,
Yeah.
um, kind of wanted to avoid that as much as possible. And so I spent my younger years, like, I think the first thing that I ever told my mom I wanted to be when I grew up was an astronaut, because I figured
Nice.
like, it's a very kid thing. You had firemen, policemen, and all that stuff, and then if you weren't a fireman or a policeman, you wanted to be an astronaut, and it seemed cool to go into space and like no idea what astronauts did except go to space and like float around.
It's like what your
uh,
brain could comprehend, right? At that
yeah,
young age. It's funny. I always thought growing up that the people that were successful or had a good job just found something they were good at. It never occurred to me till later in life that someone could do something that they enjoyed.
yeah, yeah, totally. And I think it was interesting because if you go back and you talk to like my teachers, my family, my girlfriends in high school, like all these people that were close to me, they never heard me really like want to focus on settling for like I don't want to knock lawyers, but it was never like I want to be a lawyer, because in my mind it was like that's hard work and that looks really difficult and I don't want to do that. I want to do something fun. So I think I went from like an astronaut to there was definitely a phase where I wanted to be a magician, because that seemed fun doing the magician thing.
Yeah.
And then I got really big. Well, I've always been, and you can see Macho Man back there. I've always been huge into pro wrestling, and that was something that I watched religiously growing up. So I think there was a adamant mentality that I was going to grow up to be a pro wrestler. And when people told me I couldn't, I was like, you don't believe in my dreams. You don't understand how passionate I am about this, right? But we're very similar in age, so we kind of grew up in that world where it was like you didn't have access to the internet.
Yep.
Then you got access to the internet, but you were also in like this rural area where the things that you would find and you're like, oh, I want to go do that. Like it was nowhere to be found, right? Like you
Yeah.
couldn't just jump up and go to pro wrestling school in Louisiana. It just didn't exist. But I would find on the internet and be like, oh, all these places in the Northeast. I guess one day I'll get a car and drive up there and go do this. And then at some point, I realized, I think it was actually started a backyard wrestling, you know, federation with a bunch of my friends, and we were doing shows and putting on stuff for the community.
Wait. We need to. Hold on. We can't skim over this. How many friends we talking, and what did a show look like?
All right, so it started with kind of that need to like figure out how to do this, right? Like I can't go to school for it because I'm 15 years old and I can't drive, to the Northeast and or out to California and figure this out. So me and I think at the time it started with like just one of my good friends. We were like, we watch enough wrestling. Clearly, we know what they're doing. So let's go in my backyard and let's like set up a camera and start trying to do this. And again, kind of that birth of the internet. Like we were seeing videos of people doing this type of stuff around the United States. So we were like, yeah, we could totally do that. So we went out in the backyard and I think he picked me up and threw me down on the ground, and I was like, "Oh, this really hurts."
Yeah.
And then we learned very quickly that like we cared more about the pageantry and the showmanship and the fun of putting on an entertaining moment than like what you would see sometimes where people just take it too far and just want to beat the crap out of each other, right? So we started filming things, and we would try out. We would try out just all kinds of crazy stuff. It went from me and one guy to like me and there were four of us that were key to kind of just figuring this out. We would record all kinds of videos where we were making promotional commercials for SpaghettiOs and like filming. It was really just like a bonding moment, right? We would go out to like the local like baseball park where they had like the batting cages, and we'd set the camera up to make it look like we were in cage matches and stuff like that. So we couldn't get too many people involved in my backyard because my parents didn't want a huge lawsuit. So there was a small amount of kids that were allowed to come beat each other up in my backyard. My mom would get into it. She would come out there and film some for us. My dad would film.
Really? I assumed this was
Yeah.
all like on the DL, like your parents had no idea. That's awesome.
Oh no. There's several videos where mom opens the back door in the middle of the filming and like yells out that she's going to take the dog for a walk or whatever, and everybody kind of is like trying to stay in character but like shoo her away, or she's screaming like don't jump off the roof and stuff like that.
Oh man.
So that went on in my backyard for a little while, and then we got so lucky that we I forgot how the connection was, but there was a local gymnastics place, and we knew somebody. Oh, the high school. That's how it was. The high school was trying to get a wrestling team going, and the gymnastics place was allowing them to do like Greco-Roman wrestling on their like big floor exercise thing, and
Uh,
that's where you could train. Well, we happened to know the lady that owned the gymnastics place through like family friends and stuff like that. So me getting this bright idea of like, well, they're letting them do it here. I wonder if they'll let me come here with my friends, right? So we went and talked to them, and we're like, hey, we want to do this wrestling thing. To this day, I don't think they had a clue what our version of wrestling was compared to what they
right.
thought it was. But she literally gave us a key to a humongous gymnastics facility to a couple of 15, 16 year olds. And we would go
What?
there on Thursday nights at 9 o'clock after everybody was done. And we would film on this exercise, like big floor gymnastics mat that had springs and stuff on it. So,
Oh, that's awesome.
and then we started getting the idea of like, well, let's put on a show. So we would like make flyers and we'd pin them up at school and stuff like that. And I think we did 3 full shows, and one of them, I think we maxed out, had like 250 people show up. We
Wow.
were trying to raise money for like a local kid who was like, sick with some unfortunate disease, and we were like, hey, we don't care about the money, we just want people to come watch us. So
Yeah, and you're like 15 years old. That's
yeah.
that's amazing.
So we did that for a while, and then it goes back to like everyone around me, my really close group of friends started to grow up, and I'm growing up, and then you're getting to that pivotal moment in your life where it's like, okay, well, we're not gonna make money doing this. And then I had like friends going off to be like engineers and lawyers and going to the military and stuff like that. So you start to just go, well, everybody's kind of leaving me, and I thought we were all in this wrestling dream together. um, so you start to kind of wake up and start thinking, what do you want to do from there? again, kind of that moment of like, I don't know what I want to do. So the natural thing was graduate high school and go to college. And there was a local college that I had a full academic scholarship to.
Oh, nice.
And went there, and I think I made it like 2 months. And I had just like that moment with what is it? The water boy, or
Yeah.
yeah, where, you're like in there, and it's like chlorophyll, more like borophyll, or whatever film that was. I can't think of. Adam Sandler, right?
Yeah.
And I just like got up in the middle of class and just walked out and drove to my parents' house, and dad was sitting there. I was like, I just, I think I quit college. And he's like, what do you mean quit college? uh, and I was like, I'm just not going to go back anymore. It's not for me. And I mean, I was the first person in my family to even step foot into college, right? Like,
Mm.
so there was a lot of pressure on me to like do that thing. Um, which is pretty hard, but then you're sitting around just going like, I just don't love this, I don't enjoy it. I think I was going for marketing, and I'm sitting around in like all these like prerequisite classes and stuff like that, and just couldn't get excited about anything. So I started looking back in that bag of tricks, and like video games were the thing that were always there. Like it didn't matter what I was doing, what sports I was playing, what group of friends I was hanging out with, like video games were always part of that. If we were doing the wrestling thing, we were going back to a friend's house, and then we were playing games on the N64. Or I remember the first time I walked into the mall to go buy school clothes with my parents, and I went in the arcade and watched people play Mortal Kombat 2. And that was like that moment where it clicked, and I'm like, who who does this? Like somebody has to tell this thing to like rip this guy's head off when you do these moves. Like, how do I get to do that? And started pursuing, figuring out what that meant, and came across some advertisements for Full Sail, and that was like kid in a candy store for me, of just going like, I can go here and I can go learn how to do all this stuff. And told my dad, I'm out. I'm moving to Florida. I'm going to go figure this thing out. And I don't know what it means, but hopefully I'll see you in a couple years with a job, right?
Dude,
And
that was the exact conversation I had with my family with the game design part. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. They said they'll teach me. I hope it works out. Like,
yeah,
did you do
man.
any kind of a BT behind the scenes tour or anything, or did you go to Full Sail kind of on blind faith?
I did. No, I did do the behind the scenes tour, but like I kind of, most of in high school, again, I did the sports thing. Then I just told this weird story about, backyard wrestling and stuff like that. So I'm totally selling myself short that I wasn't like on a computer constantly.
Yeah, yeah.
I had a friend who I think I saw in the chat in here, Blades575, was a guy that was wrestling with me.
He said he has videos. I want to see
He does.
those.
He does. Shout out to Benny Blades. Um, he's got videos, but like he was always on a computer as well, and he was really big into like the programming and the engineering side. Or he would get access to like 3D Studio Max on DOS, and he's like, "Hey, check this thing out." And so I was always trying to mess around on a computer. I got really big into making websites when I was in high school. Did a
Yep.
lot of Photoshop stuff like that. So it kind of felt like a natural progression of like I'm downloading all these like you know learning copies of these of software and stuff
Right.
like that.
Were you a big
And
PC gamer too, or was it mostly that side of things?
my dad had a very strict rule. You have a Nintendo to play
Mm.
games. The computer is mine, and it's for work. But I think as I got older, that he brought the computer in the house. He would always be like, "Hey, check this out. Here's the internet. Do this, do that." And I think when he really saw that I would put my mind to it and start making, websites, or I was really
Mm.
engaged in trying to do something, he kind of backed off. He still would be like, "Don't install those games on there." So I remember him buying me a zip drive and saying like, "You put your games on the zip drive," and I'm like, "Dad, it doesn't hold enough." And he's like, "Well, that's the only games you can play." So yeah, it was pretty crazy, but I think he loosened up a good bit after a while. So yeah,
Oh man.
and then my buddy was like, "Hey, have you seen this Full Sail thing?" And I was like, "Yeah, this looks cool." saw that they did the behind the scenes tour. So I flew down there, first time traveling on my own, like that type of thing. Went there, and I was hooked at that point. If it wasn't Full Sail, it was something like that. Like it was a drug at that point of like, there are people doing this, and I see the door. Like, how do I get in that door?
Yeah, man, that was the thing that was crazy about the first time I visited. Was like I walked in and I was like, this place feels like home, and there's all these people that are going to teach me this thing that I didn't know even remotely how to get involved in. It was like the gates of heaven opened. You know, it was a really surreal feeling at the time.
Totally, totally. And I mean, I remember when I started thinking about it, like going to whatever the bookstore is that probably doesn't exist anymore, Beat Alton bookstore or whatever in the mall, and going and buying like this huge how to use Maya book,
Oh
and then
yeah.
like going home with my cracked copy of Maya and like turning the pages and going, here's how you make a sphere, and like do all this stuff. And then by like chapter two, I'm like, I can't read this book. It's
Yep.
so boring. Like it's not interesting. So I knew I had to get somewhere where somebody shows me.
Yep.
And if you can show me how to do something, I can like latch onto it. And that's really been like how I've done almost everything. I think there was going back to like crazy stories. Well, I'll get to it later. Keep going.
I was the same way because I was like, what you said is true, but also hey, I have a question. If I can ask someone immediately and them answer my question, like that was, oh man, that was like so good. That is literally how I learned most of the things, was like having that very quick answer to those questions. And you can find things on the internet, but very specific answers to the things you're trying to do in that environment was super key for me.
Yeah, you need that constant feedback. You need to be able to, like, you can't ask a book a question, right?
Right. Yeah.
You're really just left to like, it's kind of like if when you get those board games and you start reading the instructions, and when the instruction book is like this thick, at some point I'm like, I'm never like,
Yep.
I'm just gonna go on the internet and watch somebody play for 20 minutes, and then I'll go, oh, I get it, and move forward.
Yep. I mean, at the time we didn't have that though, right? Like, what year did you start Full Sail?
So let's see, I graduated high school in '01. That fall I went into college, dropped out the same time, and then I think I went to Full Sail in the fall of '02.
Okay.
I started in November. So
Nice.
yeah, and then graduated in '04, February of '04.
Okay. It was all right. So yeah, I graduated in '01. So I guess I was just 3 years, which is crazy to think that how quickly we could get through those programs. Did they have a bachelor's yet when you were there? Or did you just do the associates?
No, it was just associates,
Yeah.
which is fine. That's like mentally, at that point, I was like, I just need to get my foot in the door, right? I had the fundamentals. And I mean, you know how it is. Like you get what you put in. So like you're moving so fast through those programs
Yeah.
that by the time you get home, like you really just need to drill in and go, oh, I learned this thing. Now let me see if I can like extrapolate that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing a bunch of stuff on my own. Had some great, lab instructors that put some extra time in that would like critique
Yep.
my animation work and stuff, which was a journey on its own, because getting to Full Sail was like, okay, I pay money, I show up, I get to this school. Now what do I do, right? And you
Yeah.
and you learn very quickly, like, hey, you might have thought you were going to do this thing, but you're actually better at this thing,
Oh
right?
yeah. Yeah. And when I walked in there, I had no idea that it was going to be so much programming for my degree or
Oh,
anything, right? So it was like, oh, I guess this is what I need to learn to do. The best part was I was taught, which is great, and I ended up being, proficient at it. But man, it's you when you walk in blind and I'm passionate about a thing, but I don't know what it takes, it can be a pretty eye-opening experience.
oh yeah, yeah. It's like, and it really is how you respond to that will determine if you'll be successful, right? It's
Yeah.
like getting in a boxing ring but never have been punched in the face. Like that first punch is either going to drop you down, or you're going to go, oh, all right, that's what this means, and
Yeah.
then you're going to protect your face from that point.
So
So did you go there to be a game
I
designer?
did. Yeah.
Okay.
It was funny because my cousin he's an audio engineer, and he was working with the school, and he had heard they were going to open this program So, and he knew how much I loved games. And so he's like, hey, you should check this out. And then literally I came down and lived with him and went to school to be a game designer. So it was, and I started with the first class and then I graduated with the second because I took one class over. So
Okay.
that was wild times. That was literally the pioneering of those programs at Full Sail, 1999.
Did you get a watch or a bomber jacket?
No, I wish I had actually. That bomber jacket. Well, there's many years where I wouldn't have wanted it, but now I want it. Like, yeah,
it would be so cool right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I didn't get it. I remember like getting to graduation, and then there was like a, "Hey, we're not doing watches anymore," and I'm like, "What?"
Oh,
I got so angry about that.
dude, my graduation, there was 8 people in it. We all walked across the stage, and given the opportunity, if you know me at all, I took the mic and talked. And I had like cards prepared and I talked for 3 or 4 minutes before moving along. You don't even get that option anymore.
No. That was funny because when I graduated, I was salutatorian of my graduating class. And I remember saying, "So do I need to get like a speech or something?" And they're like, "No, just walk across the stage."
Was yours
Cool.
in the original live building? Were they still doing it over there in Live One?
No, it was somewhere downtown
Oh,
Orlando.
okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because I remember leaving that and then went to the lobster pot or whatever and gorged myself on lobsters afterwards.
Nice. So during your time there, did you have any like? So I know, your really good friend Dave Payne. He was there with you at the same time. Did you guys go together? Did you like? How did that work out?
No, so we didn't start together, but he came shortly after.
Okay.
So he was kind of in that same thing where like he didn't really know what he wanted to do, and you should get Dave on here too.
I plan to. Yep. You've
Really
opened the door to Epic employees for me. So.
Right. He didn't know what he really wanted to do. I think he was working at like one of the like distribution warehouses or something like that, and he was going to school. And so when I bailed and I went in November to Full Sail, I started like first week of November. So we were there for 3 weeks, and then we took a week off for Thanksgiving. And I hopped on a plane and flew home and was just like hanging out one night with him and a few other friends, and we were having some beers and catching up. And I was just explaining it to him, and he's like, "That's what I want to do. That sounds awesome. I want to make video games." And he's always been a humongous gamer, still is today.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I was like, "Cool. Well, you're welcome to come down here." And I was like, "I've got a 1-bedroom apartment, but if you get there and you need a place to stay, like we can just make it like a dorm room and figure it out." And I think he was there within a month.
Oh wow.
He was like, he went, he talked to his parents. He was like, "About," and he came there, and I think he started in January, so he was like 2 months behind me. And we crammed in my 1-bedroom apartment, and we just like, it was a big bedroom. We just like split it down the middle, and we had our beds on each side and our TVs and our PlayStation 2s and all that stuff. And we were on different schedules, so we were never really there at the same time. And then I think we were very fortunate because I'd known David since junior high school.
Okay.
So I was very fortunate that the apartment across from ours opened up, and it was a 2-bedroom about
Nice.
4 or 5 months into him being there, because I think we were ready to murder each other at that point.
That's understandable. Sharing a bedroom, man, that's friendship.
It is. So I think we both agreed to that, and then we moved over to the 2-bedroom, and and then the rest is history. We've worked together all over the place, which is crazy. I think we also had a third friend move in to our 2-bedroom and like took over the living room and slept on the couch for the last two months.
At least it makes it a little cheaper, right? If you guys are all splitting costs. So.
Yeah. We were just trying to get in and get out and go do the next thing.
So before we move on from Full Sail time, is there a story that sticks out or a moment that you remember that you had there?
There's too many that I probably shouldn't talk about on here. I can remember those, even though I shouldn't. And,
Hey, I'm not going to pressure you, but
no,
I
no,
mean,
there was a bunch of those. I think this has really just a stupid one that pops in my head. It was towards the end. So our friend Sean, who graduated with me, he was in my class. We both were animators. He had a roommate that was like an audio student, and that guy graduated like 2 or 3 months before him, and that's when his lease ended. And he was only there for 3 more months, and he didn't want to like renew a whole year and all that stuff. So we let Sean come live in our living room on the couch. So he moves all his stuff in there. And Sean and I used to go to the Sanford flea market all the time. I don't know if you've ever partaken.
mm-mm.
Okay, so if you go, I think it's Sanford, like just north of Winter Park.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
Sanford,
Sanford's up there. Yeah.
humongous indoor outdoor flea market, and so we
Yeah,
would just
no.
go walk around. Amazing Philly cheesesteaks there, by the way. And they would sell beer, and you could walk around, and it was air conditioned and all this stuff. So we used to go there all the time and just look at stupid stuff. And there's like at least 6 different martial arts stores in there that sell like throwing stars and daggers and sais and all this stuff. And Tom used to talk about buying a 3-tiered katana set, right?
Okay.
And and then one day he bought it, which was amazing. So when he moved in with us, he set this thing up on like the entertainment center, and we would randomly like find things in the refrigerator and go out in the courtyard and like throw them up in the air and cut them and stuff like that. But the story was amazing. It was me, Sean, and David. We probably had some friends over that night. Some beers were drank. Everybody goes to sleep, and then some random person in our apartment complex opens the door
To your
because
apartment?
yeah, because we didn't lock it for some reason. I don't know.
Okay.
Just forgot about it. Opens the door and starts walking in. I hear the door open. I open my door to look out, only to see Sean pull the top katana and do a forward roll on the ground and come up with the blade like at this guy's face. And he's like, "What are you doing in my apartment?" And the guy like freaked out. He just, honest mistake, walked into the wrong door. He thought he was on the third floor or whatever. But I swear that guy probably peed his pants. And then Sean like gets him out, shuts the door, walks over, slides the katana back in the thing, and goes, "Well, good night," and just doesn't say another word.
It would take me hours to calm down from that.
Dude, it was so funny. It was so funny.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Oh man. All right. So as you're finishing up your time at Full Sail, what was your first lead on a job? What were you how did that time leading up to, and then your first job, how did that go?
Yeah, I think, like a lot of people, you make a whole bunch of stuff in school, and then you come out and you try to like switch glasses, and then you look at it from like, would you hire me
Yeah.
perspective, and sometimes you go, this isn't good enough. So I graduated, I moved back to Louisiana, ended up getting married like 3 or 4 months later, and my wife, I was like, hey, I'm not gonna like work right now because I need to like jump in and like start making this demo reel and like rework all my stuff. So she was paying all the bills, and I was like, I'll freelance on the side, which I just kind of went back to like making websites and stuff like that. And then I think she would come home and she would just like see me like sitting on the couch playing video games. She's like, "What are you doing?"
Oh man.
But it was total like just creative block. Like I couldn't. I was putting way too much pressure on myself to like
Mm.
make new good stuff. Um, so I made a couple of new things, recut my demo reel, and just started sending it out. At the same time, I went and got a real job back at the company that I used to work for when I was in high school. Shout out to I-55 Internet, which is
Nice.
no longer in existence. But that was not planned, by the way. I just totally grabbed a koozie out of my koozie box.
I love it.
That's hilarious. So I went back there and I was like selling websites at the same time because I could get commission and I was making more money. Really just was didn't have my head on my shoulders. I was like disgruntled because of a lot of reasons. I wasn't getting the jobs that I wanted. I was back at this place that I really didn't want to be at, doing something I didn't want to do. And I got into it with my boss and was just like, all right, I'm out. I quit. And then went back to like, what am I going to do? No one's calling, no one's answering my emails. And I'm just like sending these demo reels to anybody that would listen.
Yeah.
Um, Ended up getting a job at like a sign company making yard signs that like real estate signs, like Remax signs,
Mm-hmm.
all these like political signs. Because somebody was like, "Hey, do you know what is it? Adobe Illustrator?" I was
Illustrator,
like,
yeah.
"Yeah." I was like, "Yeah, I know Illustrator." Didn't know a lick of Illustrator. I knew Photoshop, so I was like, "It can't be that different." They hired me. I came in, and it was like the most toxic, terrible environment. I was there for a month, and then kind of bailed on that as well because it was just a bad place to be.
Mm.
Uh, Went back to doing some freelance stuff while I was trying to get some leads. About this time, it was getting into the fall of that year, and would get random emails like, "Yeah, maybe in a couple of years," or just no responses and stuff. And started questioning, like, did I do all this for nothing?
Mm.
And um, was contemplating going to culinary school to be a chef because I love food. And about that time, I had gotten a response from Neversoft out in LA,
Yeah.
and I'm a humongous Tony Hawk pro skater fan. So it was like, oh, this is the dream job. Like I've nailed it already. And they were like giving me an art test. And the art test didn't have anything to do with skateboarding. So I'm like, what is this? What am I doing an animation test for? Like, you make Tony Hawk, it should only be skateboarding. But it was like, animate this person gardening. And it was so weird, but I just kept doing it. And then sent it to him. And I got the like worst response ever that was like, oh, we've hired someone local.
Oh,
And I was like, well, you didn't even tell me if like my test was good or not. You just said you've hired someone local. Like they didn't want to move me across the country or whatever.
that's rough.
Yeah, it hurt pretty bad. And then, I mean, I didn't want to go to LA. That was never on my list to like live there. And about the same time, Volition responded, and I got an animation test from them. Did that as quick as humanly possible because at this point we were running out of money quickly and
Mm-hmm.
needed to kind of get into secure a job mode. And went there, interviewed, came back, waited a couple of days, and they offered me a entry level animation position. And
Nice.
I said I'll be there in 2 weeks. Whatever you're paying me, I will take it. And my wife and I packed up and moved to the Midwest where it was snowing day one.
Oh my
Day one that
gosh.
I arrived.
I mean, I think it's important to note here, and this is something that I try to help make sure that recent grads understand. 6 months to a year is not an unreasonable amount of time to expect to wait to get your first job in the industry. Like that's why we recommend people as you're 3 to 6 months away from graduation, go ahead and start, getting your stuff out there. But man, it's rough so for me, I got my first job right out of school, but then after a year, that's when I had the moment you have where I'm like, I can't find another one, and I'm spending that year like, what am I going to do? Am I doing the right thing? So it can be rough at times, man. You got to stick with it though, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So you stick with it. I got there, and it's funny because I think every time I have taken a new job, there's that moment of panic where it's like, oh my God, do I actually know what that means? What am I going to
Yeah.
be doing there? Right. And you get in and you figure it out and you start finding out what good looks like and you start replicating that and then start determining how to be great at things. Right.
Yeah. Oh man. So somebody saying they waited 3 years for their first job, but said it was worth the journey. So that's
Yeah.
the thing, man. If you really want to do it, you'll get it figured out, but it can take a while. And sometimes you got to like, go back and do a job that you didn't want to do anymore or take some work just to pay the bills. That's okay. Just don't like completely veer off of the path, right? Like, keep working on
It
your
builds
skills and
character.
looking. Yeah.
It builds character. It gives a lot of perspective too. A lot of perspective that you can use later in your career to build off of.
Nice. So let's talk about your moving to the Midwest. Because like I have a decent idea of what that felt like. Because
Oh man,
Champaign has college and corn, right? And then not much else.
and 2 hospitals,
Yeah.
just in case the first one can't take care of you.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah,
what was your first your like first moments like there?
it's funny. I've had 2 jobs that I've interviewed during like what I've assumed is the coldest it could ever possibly be.
Mm-hmm.
So when I interviewed at Volition, it was in January and it was freezing and there was snow on the ground, and my wife had never lived anywhere outside of Louisiana, so I went and experienced this, and I'm like, oh god, I can't tell her about this part of it. Like, I'll just tell her how cool the job is and all this. And then we flew up there, and I remember, giving her the window seat as one should, her peering out, and we landed in was it Danville, right? Yeah, so we landed there, and as they're coming in, it's just white everywhere, like snow covered, and she was like, "Well, there's snow everywhere. What do we do?" And I'm like, "Well, we get in the car and we drive in it. I think, like, I don't know any better." Um, and then when I left Volition and I moved out to North Carolina, I interviewed here, and it was an ice storm, and it was like I was so scared to walk down the street because there was so much ice. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Something about snow, man. And then every year, I was in Illinois for a decade. Every year, it seemed like the winter was worse than the one before.
Oh man. Yeah, I remember shortly after I moved there, we had a really bad one, and I had a rear wheel drive truck, like I had an S10, and I was like, all right, I'm upgrading. I upgraded to the big truck, 4-wheel drive, and then it didn't do that for like 3 years. I was like, man, like I thought I was preparing myself.
Yep, yep.
So, what was the first project you worked on, and what was your role on that project?
So the first project I worked on was Punisher 2, which never released. So when I interviewed at Volition, they were talking about, they had just shipped Punisher 1. And I like Punisher's comic book character. I was pretty excited. I played the game, understood what type of stuff I'd be animating. So I came in and I got thrown into a room with the art director and Ev Reglioso, and that's where I met Ev. Ev had only been there for like a year, and I was the new animator. And I think Scott Phillips had left to go be a designer. He had
Mm.
animated, and then he was
Oh,
moving
that's
over.
right. I
Yeah,
forgot he
yeah,
started in animation. Yeah.
yeah, he did. And then they needed an animator to come in. I came in. I was there for like a month and maybe a month and a half. I think it was only a month. They threw me on. I was like, didn't know how to use 3D Studio Max, only knew how to use Maya. So like my first 2 weeks were figuring out that. And then they're like, hey, we got this big scene that we're gonna do for this vertical slice, and we need to prove it out, and you're the guy that's gonna work on it. And I was like, oh, okay, no pressure. I started animating all this stuff, and then I remember they wanted the like execs, the studio heads, to come by and like start seeing stuff, and they would come by and they'd look at things, and then they'd go to the other room and they look at things. And I was like, I guess this is just what happens. And then they pulled us all in a room and they shut the project down.
Oh
And
man.
I was there. I just moved across the country. I was the newest guy on the totem pole, and I'd been there a month. And they're like, "Well, project's canceled." And I'm like, "I guess that means I'm homeless or whatever." Right? But then, rightfully so, to Volition's credit, they were very good to think about people's families
Yep.
and try to keep them. So they said, hey, no, we're not canceling this project because we're trying to lay people off. We're canceling this project because the previous one didn't do that great, and we've got this new thing over here that we really want to invest people into, like next gen. And got moved over to project codename Bling Bling, which became known to the world as Saints Row.
Yeah.
And then I worked on every incarnation of Saints Row for the next decade. And
Man.
I loved it. I loved every single moment of Saints Row.
Oh, we're going to talk about that. I do want to say first, though, that one of the reasons I came to Volition was because their track record of not having layoffs. That was a big deal for me when I made that move back in '08. And
Yeah.
I would say throughout my 8 years there, I think they always tried to do right by their people. I think that's something that I can say with with a lot of confidence that they care about, and that was nice. That was
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, it was really good. It was good to see that, and I think I think it put some of those studio heads through a lot of stress and pain trying to always figure that out. But
Yeah.
they always did right by the people.
Yeah, it's definitely that cannot be easy. Absolutely not. I'm with you. So you're working on Bling Bling. I love that first of all, and
Yeah, it was great.
and so animation team was how big at that point when you got there, like, and you're working on
Oh,
this.
when I moved over to that team, there was so me and Will both were on Punisher, so we were the two new guys, and I think it was three other people. One was
Okay,
the lead, and two other guys. It was Nathaniel, Randall, and Tim.
5 guys on an open world game.
Five guys on an open world game. Um, Also, a game where there was zero outsourcing
Mm.
for any of the animation work. So not only did we do all of the E3 trailer, which is when I came over. It's like, hey, surprise, we got E3 coming up. Everybody's making a cinematic trailer. So I was like, all right. I think I had one shot in there and it was the worst shot ever, but I was just like, give me anything.
Yeah,
We did the trailer, we did all of the in-game animation, and we did all of the cinematics, which I think for that game was like 60 minutes of cinematics, if not more. We did facial animation, cloth animation, because nothing was simulated. Like we animated everything.
man.
Yeah.
So what
And
was
when I came on, we were a launch title on the 360. So we had do the E3 trailer, finish the game, and you have 6 months.
wow? So okay, so talk to me a little bit about what that picture looked like for you. Were you guys feeling confident? Were you feeling like, how in the world are we going to do this? Like, because we've both been through all those scenarios, right? Where it's like somebody's asking for the world and we know we can't give it, or we're all in this, we'll figure it out. Like what was kind of the vibe as you were moving through that first part?
I think I was too dumb to realize if anybody was concerned.
Okay.
We had
Yeah.
a really we had a really great team. Like everybody was, we were constantly laughing. There was jokes going around. We were, everybody was super cool. I never got a sense that anybody was like stressed out. And I think, it's a testament to the guys that were there. Like they never showed that poker face. Or like I said, I was too dumb to realize it. I think we were all kind of stressed at some point. I was stressed because I was brand new and I just wanted to contribute.
Yep.
But also, I didn't know really how the industry works. So I do remember, like early on, like everybody's working late, and I'm like, cool. Well, I don't have anything, and you don't think to say like, can I help you with
Oh,
anything or
yeah.
whatever, right? So, but I learned really quick on that, and I just started asking like, what can I do? What can I do? And the more senior guys were just unloading on us, and then we pushed. And I think when we started getting very close to like, hey, this thing's gonna ship soon, but like it only runs at like 5 frames a second. Like that's when it really started to click that like, hey, who should I tell that this is bad? And then you learn that other people are looking at it from a different level. But
That's a really good question though. So, like, I'm not sure how the team was structured there at that point. Who did you talk to? Was there a bunch of producers? Did you have like a specific lead that you were working with? How was that structured at the time?
we had our animation lead, and I think he was just in those higher level conversations, which was fine because it just allowed us to kind of keep moving
Yeah.
forward. So we dealt with the day-to-day problems of like I can't get this guy to give me the file that I need to finish my thing. Or I think at that time we were doing a ton of cinematics, and our biggest issue was like when I made a change, I had to export the entire thing, the entire cinematic.
Oh my God.
It would take an hour sometimes, depending on how long it is to export. Then I had to wait for like the Xbox to boot up and all this stuff. We were working on like we didn't even have Xbox dev kits. We were working on Mac G5s that Microsoft had sent and said, this will be comparable to the Xbox 360. Only to find out that it had like double the memory than the 360 was actually going to have. And we had
Oh
to
no.
so.
You know,
But
you
it was cool, man. I think I learned a lot by just learning that it was a team. And to me, that was super relatable to my childhood of playing a lot of sports and understanding like it's not one person's contributions, it's everybody. And if this guy is running behind, like see if you can help him out.
yeah, it's not he is, it's we are, right? It's always the end goal is the one we're all trying to hit. But you also
Yeah.
bring up a really good point, which is the tools that you have make a major impact. And people often don't realize this because, you know, people we teach them on things like Unity and Unreal, but every place that I've worked had a proprietary engine, every single
Yeah.
place. And there's not those efficiencies at times. There's, you know, things where we have to do it this way because someone doesn't have the time to build that tool for us. And you're talking about taking an hour for something to build that could take significantly less time and make you more productive. You just didn't have access to it.
Yeah. And then also like new hardware,
Yeah.
right? Like whole new hardware generation. Also, we were trying to make an open world game, and at the time it was Grand Theft Auto. And
Yeah.
that was it. Like, and they had made three open world 3D games, and we were like, well, we're going to be the next gen version of that. And it's like that's a bold statement to make.
Yeah, it is.
There wasn't anybody else to look at. There was no Assassin's Creed. There was no, Watch Dogs. There were none of these other open world games. So you were really just trying to figure it out, and it was insane.
Yeah.
Rabble Rooster. I never complain about the tools. That's great.
now, to be fair, I'm not even saying it's a complaint. You deal with what you have, right? And usually we know it's like, I want this to be better, but we're not in a place where we can make it better. Let's put that on a list to make it better for the next time, right? That's usually what we do, and hopefully we accomplish that goal.
Yeah, yeah, and that's really kind of what we would do. We finished Saints Row 1, and I think as we were finishing it, they had kind of taken some of the leads and directors that were on Punisher 2, and they didn't go to Saints Row. They went and started thinking about Saints Row 2
Mm-hmm.
so that we could just like keep moving. So we moved over there and kind of had to understand like new direction, new leadership, and then you just come with your punch list of like what was bad last time. Well, these are the things that I'm going to ask to improve moving forward, and um, but every game, even though it's funny because even though we made 4, 5 Saints Rows, if you're counting some of the expansions and stuff, every development was completely different than the previous one.
Yeah.
Like we never had one that was the same.
In a way, that's good, but because hopefully it means you're getting better, right? But we keep making the same mistakes at times too, right? Where it's like, all right, new engine, new game, new structure. I mean, we can talk about Agents of Mayhem in a little bit, but but there's, it's always that. And when you get to the end, though, that post mortem, I think, is so important if it's done the right way, right? Where everybody gets their opportunity to say, here's the things I dealt with, here's the things that should get better. Let's talk about these things. Let's make sure that when we move into the next one, we prioritize the things that will make this experience better and more efficient.
Yeah. And what we decided was the team of 5 animators would turn into a team of 3 animators for the sequel, and that would be perfectly fine.
Wait, that doesn't sound like it moved in the right direction. Was that because a second project was spun up, or?
You guys started making like they shipped. No, not yet. That was a Red Faction
That was Gorilla. Yeah. A
Yeah,
little before me. Yeah.
Yeah, we needed that to ship. So they were like, all right, well, some of these people are going to go over here. And yeah, there were three of us. One was a lead, 2 animators. So one guy got stuck on, or I think 2 of those guys went and did all the cinematics with some outsourcing support. And then I got stuck on all the in-game stuff, which was and interesting. It's like that proud moment of like, oh, I did the majority of all the in-game stuff, and then I look at it, and I'm like, I don't want to tell anybody that.
I
It
mean,
was
I
just like,
did it.
well, we Saints Row One was male only. You could only be a male.
Yeah.
And then we went to Saints Row 2, and it's like, well, we totally missed out here. We should have male, female. And we didn't have the budget to go remocap everything. So all of the Saints Row, like, we called this the de-thugification pass. So all of the Saints Row 1, if you go back and play it, is heavily gangster, like leaning to the side, guns turned sideways, and all that stuff. And then
Mm-hmm.
we realized that that was never going to translate to male female because we couldn't like layer on poses to offset that. So we needed to do the dethugification pass where we went through every animation, threw a layer on it, adjusted all the like leaning out of it, then went through and started making female versions of everything in the game too. So
Oh
it
my
wasn't
gosh.
super glorious, but I learned a lot. I crunched a lot. Um,
I've
but
heard
it was
that. I've heard that.
honestly, that project was the biggest blur to me
Yeah.
because of how much I worked, and that was not a fun development.
You're talking about two, right? Saints Row 2?
True.
Okay, so I want to talk about this a little more specifically because my impression was that the city was the same, right? Like the city was reused, right? But
Yes,
underground was added, right? Like there was a whole kind of underground system that was added on top of it. And did two add co-op that wasn't there before, or am I remembering that wrong?
it did add co-op. Co-op was not in part one.
So that was like the two major differences, right?
Yeah, that was the two. We had male, female, fully customizable characters.
Mm-hmm.
They added underground, but also they changed elevation on the city. So Saints Row One, the city was completely flat,
Okay.
and then Saints Row Two, we had to add some like ramps and dips and make the city feel better than just like completely flat plain. And then they added some underground areas and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. You know, one interesting tidbit. My offer letter was signed by Mike Koulos, the founder of Volition, during the SR2 launch party. Like they literally pulled him aside and were like, "Would you sign this, please?"
That's amazing.
I was like, "I want to be there for a party." Like I'm like a month late, you know.
I think the challenge with Saints Row 2 was like we were kind of all over the place. We knew that we wanted to be different than Saints Row 1, and we wanted to go in on like the craziness
Mm-hmm.
that people liked. So all of the gameplay was like so absurd and so crazy. So from an animation standpoint, it was great. It's like you're animating people surfing on the hoods of cars and jumping off of base jumping, and every gang that you fought, you could get like some new melee combat from like capoeira to taekwondo, and so there was so much going on. And then the story was just like deeply dark,
Yeah.
and the two things really were kind of at odds with each other. And then we really should have started over, but we didn't have the time in a lot of ways. So we were really trying to put a square peg in a round hole by making the city work. And I think we didn't really get a ton of benefit with what we did with the city.
Well, I mean, you were having that eternal struggle, which is you're building a sequel. What do you reuse, right? And then what do you add? And
Yeah.
like reusing the city, I think is a great idea. Because it's there's augments you can make and things like that, and that is the bulk of our work. In an open world game is making the space, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you guys, like, I remember at the time. So obviously, I wasn't there yet, but I remember is this a GTA knockoff, right? And that was the only comparison, and it was a direct comparison. And so with 2, you were talking about what do we do to make it feel different, feel better, feel unique, and you were kind of moving down that path. So kind of what was since I wasn't there for those conversations, what was that vibe like? Like what kind of conversations did you guys have?
I think we had a lot of really good conversations, like wanting to stand out, wanting to separate ourselves. We just had so many like deep rooted handcuffs that we had to like continue with, or we had to couldn't change this because it would impact the development too much. It was at odds with just the amount of time, because I think we turned that around in like 2 years. It was a pretty quick development. So, I mean, honestly, like I said, there was a lot of blurs to that project. It does not.
I bet.
That's probably the project that I can remember the least, even though I was so heavily involved in it early on and all the way through. I remember just wanting to be done with it because the amount of work was just excessive. But it
Yeah.
was cool because that was the one project that I really started to understand how to be a game animator, what it meant. I got to go on first motion capture shoot and got to then go on another one and kind of run it on my own, and really started to go like, I know where I want to go with my career, and it's to be the guy that's like understanding all this and helps the team put it together and move forward. So there was a lot of really cool stuff that happened to me personally, but development wise, man, I can't even remember.
I'm 100% with you. I know exactly what you're talking about. And I think you have to endure it to really understand it. But there's a bit of that, like, I, I just want to, like, I'm done. I've put everything I have into this. I'm ready to not feel like every bit of my being is going into something. Like, give me a break for a bit.
Yep. Yep.
So,
And then I think we took that and we really were able to take a step back as we move forward and say, how do we do this better?
and that's where the move from 2 to 3 is something I really want to talk a bit about, because I feel like that was, well, it was obviously a major change, right? In tone, in process, and there's so many things that changed. And that was around the time that I got there. So I got to kind of, I wasn't on the project, but I got to kind of see that happening, as I was working on Red Faction. So I'm curious, because there's that, first of all, there's that whole debate of, seems like half the fans say 2 is the best and the other half say 3 is the best, right? Like there's that divide
one
there.
half that's right and the other half is wrong.
And which half is right? I'm curious.
In my opinion, as a holistic product, Saints Row 3 is hands down the best Saints Row that we ever made.
100% agree. 100% agree.
There are features in Saints Row 2 that people gravitate towards, but as a whole product, Saints Row 3 is hands down the best, in my opinion.
I'm with you.
Cannot argue or change my mind.
I don't want to change your mind, but I do want to ask more questions about it.
Yeah.
No, but the thing that's interesting is that when I was looking at kind of the community and them talking about it, it was more about the tone and vibe of the 2. Right? Like people are like, 2 is super gritty, dark, and it kind of went down that path, whereas the 3rd was more whimsical and lighthearted and irreverent, and I think that's 2 different kinds of people for sure, right? So that's a big change. How did that change start to happen?
I think we went through a lot of early planning exercises. I think I was one of the first people to come onto the project even before I was the lead animator. I was the only animator, so I was exposed to like a ton of things early on, of like tone conversations. What's the tone of this game, right? Like, and really, that's something that people don't think about when you're starting out. It's like, okay, well, here's a spectrum. You've got the gritty over here. You've got the irreverent, hilarious over here. Like, where are we trying to land this thing? Okay, right here. Well, great. You picked the middle. So, what's some comparables and stuff like that? And we really started to reference like films. We went through a lot of process to just get everybody thinking in the same way. These are the things that we want to do, these crazy moments. Look at this film, play this game, read this book. And I think that was something that was like critical at the beginning. We started to go down a path on Saints Row 3 where I think, you were the main character was an undercover cop, and it was starting to be kind of gritty at the beginning. And I think we flipped that and started. I don't remember where the term exaggereal came from, but
that was from Frank, right?
I think so. Yeah, that was the one that people started grabbing onto. Is like, okay, what does that mean? It means it's real, but it's exaggerated. Okay. Then we put that into the art, we put that into the design, and we put it into the story. I think it just, hands down, we had the right people on that project, and it was the right time for those people to come together and make something super special. And I don't want to put process above any of that. We had incredible talent on that team, and they all put their 110% in. And I think when we were given the ability to make a new city, push the engine, make the, the visuals better, and we started to put that stuff together. I remember, environment artists making this beautiful corner for our vertical slice, and us just staring at these oranges and bananas that were in there and talking about how incredible they looked, right? Like, we all were aligned towards the same goal.
Yeah.
And that goal was to make something special and to tell GTA to piss off that we were a real threat.
That's, man, when you're talking about, I 100% agree with you. First of all, the people and getting in line is super important, and that's how special things happen. I also think that what the thing that I saw as I got there at Volition was they allowed people to do that. There was a lot of giving agency to the people that are experts, which is why when we moved into Agents of Mayhem, which we'll talk about later, there was the flat structure and allowing people to kind of impact things at that level. And we can talk about the downfalls of that, but but enabling people to show their expertise and their passion in something is super huge. And that was something that I hadn't really seen in that way until I got there. And I really appreciated that.
And I think that's why 3 was so special, because that was exactly what happened, And I talk about the great leadership and the great directors and all of the contributors on that team, and it was, they trusted everybody. Like, I was the first time animation lead on that project, and I remember sitting down with Scott Phillips, who was our lead designer on that, and chatting with him, and he's like, go put your own awesome on this. He's like, I know you. We hang out all the time. I know the stuff that you like, all the stuff that you like and inspire you. Just go do it.
Yeah.
And that's how we got, like, people flying, drop kicking through windows, and all the pro wrestling influence in our melee systems and stuff like that. And that's some of the things that people gravitate towards when
Yeah.
they talk about how fun Saints Row 3 was. It's a lot of that personality, or you get, Steve and Scott really pushing to incorporate licensed music into our missions, and like, there's so much good in that game.
Oh, there really is, right from the start too. And man, it's so for those of you that weren't, Steve was the lead writer, Scott was the lead designer on that project. And I think that those, and I love what you said about basically making sure the people that the things they're excited about are the right things for the game, because sometimes we get people in spots where the thing they're excited about isn't necessarily the right thing for the game, and those are tough conversations, or adjustments that need to be made. But with that team, it was funny because my first experience with kind of getting to know people that were working in Saints Row, I was like, and you were one specifically where I was like, what they like, they get it, they're doing the thing. I can't wait to see what comes out of the thing they're going to do next, and even when we get to 4 with the beginning mission, like that stuff is super great. Like, it's just, it's good to know that people understand the game and the things they care about make it a better product. Like, that's a big deal.
Yep. And some of that stuff is incredibly difficult to communicate and teach. You just kind of have to have it in some ways. And I think after the Koch buyout, and there was a lot of influx of those people, that it was very easy in some situations to see people be like, oh, just put this dildo in this thing again because that's what worked over here. Like, trying to keep it PG, but that's part of the game. And it's like, that's not Saints Row. It is, that was a part of it, and we heavily marketed that. And I personally think that that was the wrong thing to heavily market for it, because now the majority of, a decade's worth of a lot of people's careers are summed up by that one visual.
Yeah.
But you can't just like have somebody come in and say, oh, put some, risque blow up dolls over here and that'll be hilarious and it's Saints Row. It's like, no, it's how that was done,
Yep.
not just doing it, right? So there's a lot of nuance to it that I just don't think people get, or it gets credit for. But I love that game, and I love the team that worked on it.
Yeah, I love how any idea could be a good idea. Like there was a lot of things that were explored, especially in the weapons department and across 3 and 4. And it's just like, hey, we got this cool idea. Let's try it. You know, that stuff was cool. And yeah, Mr. Toots, actually, that's something that I think bled over from Saints Row into Red Faction, right? Where we're like, let's do something interesting and unique and different, but has that vibe, but we'll make it fit, you know?
Saints Row 3, the development, and I think 4 in a lot of ways too, because it had the same leadership teams and we all kind of knew what we wanted to do. It really was best idea wins, but you also have to be able to present that idea and defend it, and then also know when to like step away if it's not working out. I think we had so many silly things that we explored at the beginning of Saints Row. I think, by the way, Saints Row 2, 3, and 4, I feel like all had exploration in a cover system, which became the like, why are we wasting our time? We know we don't want a cover system in this game, but we always had to do it.
Always.
Saints Row 3, we had the amazing idea that we would do gun core, which was parkour with guns. So imagine
I forgot about that.
Yes, if Rabble Rooster's in here still, he remembers passionately how much we worked on this, but it was free or gun core or free gunning, whichever way you want to look at it.
He didn't forget about it.
No. Rabble and I worked so hard on this, but it was just this weird thing of like, design, rightfully so, is like, you can't limit the weapons that you hold. You can't do this. You can't do that. And it's like, great. But we had prototypes of the player running, free running over the tops of cars, climbing buildings, all while shooting guns in every single direction possible. It was the most like Americanized John Woo gun porn game ever at that point. But at some point, you realize you're creating more of a box that you're stuck within, because level designers were struggling on how do we make the levels that you interact with, and like, you know, it just became a problem. But we did that. I feel like there was some other crazy stuff that we also explored on that game that got cut.
Oh, I'm sure there was, because that was one thing that was nice early on. Let's you know, any idea is a cool idea at first. You know, let's talk about them. Let's see what makes sense. And especially in that universe, there's a lot of things that can make sense. So it's cool to, you know, kind of explore that.
Yep. I'll never forget being in the meeting when Ryan Jenkins proposed fart in a jar, and everyone laughed tremendously about how absurd it was. And then it was like, cool, that's what we're doing. And I'm like, all right, I guess that's what we're doing.
Yeah. That one, that doesn't surprise me. And two, that doesn't surprise me. Like the idea and the execution. So that's good times. That's good times. So as you were finishing up 3, I want to talk about because as 3 was finishing up, you know, I was doing the pre-production on the original Saints Row 4 design, and you guys were finishing that, and then also the Enter the Dominatrix thing was happening. And refresh my memory a bit about like how that came about, because what I remember was that was a joke at first, but then it was actually happening. And then like talk us through a little bit about how all that was going on.
So the wrapper for all this was we shipped Saints Row 3, and I think it ended up, it was a huge success for THQ. It was you know, I think within the first couple of months we had done 6, I think it ended up hitting like 8 million copies in the first year or something like that, which was humongous.
That's great. Yeah.
For Volition especially, right? And for THQ, like we were the biggest selling game that they had ever had. So that came out in 09, I feel like it was.
That sounds about right. Yeah, 9 or 10. Yeah.
And it was like, oh my God, this is making a ton of money. Also, THQ had invested in UDraw on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, and it was a colossal failure and sucked all of their money.
Oh my God.
So you guys split off to go do Saints Row 4 Classic, we'll call it.
Yep. That was me.
Yep. Then it was like, well, in order to do that game, that's like what, 3-year development timeline or something like that. There's no way we can wait between Saints Row 3 and that. We need something to make more money because we're about to go bankrupt. So they took the team from Saints Row 3 and put us on, what was the Red Dead Redemption had come out, and then they did the like
The
Undead
zombie
Night.
thing. Yep. Like a
So they're like
standalone $30 product, right?
$30
Yep.
product, 8 hours of gameplay, go make some money, right? And they said, you guys go do it. You are coming off of this, like just go do it. So we all got together and we built the story, we built the gameplay, and in the gameplay, it's essentially what turned into what shipped for Saints Row 4. There was superpowers that we were exploring. There was an irreverent take on the Matrix with
Mm-hmm.
Enter the Dominatrix. We had shot all the cutscenes. We were like 2 months from probably wrapping this thing up, and then Dan, what's his name? The dude from THQ. So bankruptcy happened.
It was Ruben, right?
Oh yeah. Bankruptcy did not happen, but we filed. THQ filed for it.
Yep.
Jason Rubin came in and was like, "How can you give people superpowers and then the next version of Saints Row not have all
Yep.
that?"
100%.
And I think they were looking for something that had progress, and you guys had like very early prototypes and like design docs and stuff like that.
Yep.
And they looked at us and they were like, "Nah, nah, 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 just turn this into a full game."
Yep.
They shut you guys down, and then we were sitting there going, "How do we take this small game, save what we've done, cut it up, and expand it out and fill
Mm-hmm.
all it out?" Which then ended up turning into like another year and a half of development anyway.
Yeah.
During the bankruptcy, when everybody was fearing for jobs and stuff like that. But that was, I think, I don't know. Tell me what you think, but I think it was the right choice to do that
Yeah.
based on Volition probably wouldn't have been around if we didn't have anything for them to purchase in the bankruptcy, right?
Yep. I agree with you. And there was also another piece of that was happening too, which was we had just gotten the ability to do a new IP. Right.
Oh,
So that's what I moved on to. And so it was like at the same time, Ruben's like, okay, you guys, we're going to make this into 4. And you guys ended up taking some of the stuff that we were planning early on, like the monster trucks and that kind of stuff. And then they're like, yeah, let's do 4. And then let's also start the process on this new IP, which I moved over to and was working on that. So it was absolutely the right call. 100% the right call, especially in hindsight.
Zeus, right?
Zeus. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was an interesting time because we had 9 pitches that we all thought were really cool. Like, or at least in some way, we're like, any of these, there's elements of this that could be cool. There's like an urban occult game. There was the Sky Pirates game. There was some cool stuff.
I do remember that. I'm blurring some of it with what happened when we started trying to figure out Agents of Mayhem, because I remember the whole like, who's got pitches?
Yep.
And then we were going, yeah, there was Fantasy Pirates, there was Urban Occult,
Yep.
and then there was Saints Row meets GI Joe.
Yep. Yep. And there was also this, and before we even got to that point, there was the post-apocalyptic thing that everybody, like, that the people that were making the decision really gravitated toward, because our upper leadership at the studio and then Ruben also were like, make that game. Essentially, let's make a Saints Row Fallout game. And those of us that are working on it were like, fuck, like there's enough post-apocalyptic stuff out there right now.
And also, like, the team at that point, we had done Saints Row while we were finishing 4. Was like, hey, wouldn't it be great if we didn't do Saints Row and we did something with a different tone? Probably not the right decision given where the specialties were within the team, but I think there was a desire to do a lot of stuff. I know I lobbied super hard to do that pirate game.
That's the one I wanted to do too. That or the Urban Occult. Those are really interesting to me.
Yeah.
So, but we got to that point where, I spent about a year on Zeus where we ended up with the post-apocalyptic game. And so we were, a smaller group of us were over and prototyping that and building it out while you guys were finishing Saints Row 4. And one thing I wanted to kind of touch back on a little bit was that throughout 3 and 4 was where in my head, you were the mocap guy. Like anything that was mocap was you. And I always think about that mission in Saints Row 4 where he's like doing the walk, and like that is the most memorable point of that game to me. And that's you in that moving suit. Like
it was I definitely was mocap Zach for sure. It was one of my favorite parts of the job, and really as like the lead on a game that was heavily mocap driven, I really wanted to be that person that saw how it was shot and directed it, because that was like the influence, and then the team was able to take it from there and really drive it. But yeah, man, if I wasn't like traveling back and forth to LA to shoot like optical mocap for the game, I was in that moving suit running through the hallways or doing something like that. And I tried to get other people to get in there, but nobody else wanted to put the suit on, probably because it just smelt so bad.
it smelled like you.
It was so complicated. It had all these wires and stuff in it. And I remember the guy was like, "Oh yeah," and then every now and then take all this stuff out, throw it in the washer, and then like day one when we got the suit and we put the wires in, I think all the animation team was like, "We're never taking the wires out of this thing."
Yeah.
Right?
Oh man.
Duck being the dude, and I loved it. I can't deny that for sure.
Well, I mean, the reason I think about that so much was because there was that time that you and I went to LA to do that shoot together, and that was for Agents of Mayhem, right? If I remember right. Yeah. And the thing that was my first time just like going and hanging out at a at a mocap session, and that was super cool on its own.
Yeah.
But the best thing, and I still have videos and photos of this, was the turtle racing that you introduced me to.
I was thinking about that the other day, man. I forgot all about it, and then I was going through some other photos. I'd been there twice. I think I'd went once before, and then the night that you met out there. But
it was like us and Maggie McDonald and who there was. I think there was somebody else there too.
And Andrew Ray or A Ray. So Maggie, A Ray were two mocap actors that were always out there with us.
Yeah. So for those that don't know the turtle racing scene, describe this for us.
It's competitive, man. It is so competitive. So let's see, where is it? Somewhere south of Santa Monica. I can't think of where it is, and outside of one of the LA suburbs. There's a bar, and on Thursday nights you can go race turtles, and it's like a hole in the wall, Irish pub, like dive bar. And then there's a big outdoor courtyard in the back, and you walk out there and everybody's drinking and having a good time. And I guess it's an equivalent of like a Greco-Roman wrestling mat, like this big green mat with a circle in the middle taped down. And at some point, they come out there and they get on the microphone and they start emceeing, and you can bet on turtles. And they come and they put this bucket down in the middle, and then they lift it up, and everybody just cheers as the turtles try and run off the mat. And it's a sight to be seen, man.
It sure is.
Turtle racing. I feel like, honestly, there's some money to be made in any city that doesn't have turtle racing.
That is literally the only time I've ever heard of it or seen it. I have videos of it, so we can prove that it's a real thing. And actually, I just looked it up on my drive. It was on a Thursday night. It was in January. And but the best part was the crowd. Like there was probably packed. 200 people around this circle watching these turtles. And it was funny too, because there's a couple of guys that were orchestrating it, and they would like every now and then they would just randomly throw a red flag, like, "Oh, we got to start it over," and they would pick somebody from the crowd to come in and help with the setup. And it was a blast.
Oh, here it is. I found it. So it is Brennan's in Marina Del Rey.
All right.
1972. You can go race turtles. Yeah, now I want to go race some turtles.
Is it still a thing? Are they still doing it?
I'm sure they took a hit during COVID, but probably not cramming 200 people around a bunch of turtles now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was a good time, man.
That was a good time. That was super memorable, and I appreciated it. And that was the first time we did something like that together. Like we were just off kind of doing a work thing. Yeah, we were
always in the office together, but never on the travel trips, right?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then there's one other big thing that you and I did together. And that was when you came to me with the idea of not having the boss in the next game, right?
Ooh, the room where it happened.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, Saints Row has always had the boss, right? The character you play that's fully customizable, male, female. You make it look like you want. Everything pivots around that character. But when we were talking about Agents of Mayhem, this was Saturday morning cartoon GI Joe, right? Where you're like, I want my action figures. I need all these guys to be cool and unique, and I'm going to pick the ones I want to take and make a cool crew. It didn't really make sense for there to be like this one central character. And Zach came to me and he's like, I think we need to get rid of it. And I'm like, I think you're right.
Yep.
That was fun. What do you remember about that time?
Oh man, so such a strange time. At that point, like I would assume I was probably a humongous jerk to work with. I'll just be openly honest about that. Like, or this was like the moment where it started to trend in that direction because I had just been there and I was burnt out, and agents was just a thing I was so passionate about to start with, and then just it died in my heart and I had to leave. But I remember early on we spent so much time talking about what this next game was going to be.
Yeah.
The ultimate pin was pulled of like nobody's in charge.
Oh, the flat structure.
Flattened structure, right? Like, damn you, Valve, for that idea even ever existing, right? Like, there was the idea that, hey, what if nobody was in charge, and what if everybody was just game developers, and naturally you'll gravitate towards each other and agree on things and like move forward, and we'll make the best experience ever, which is like absolutely not how it will work when you have a team of 200 people.
Mm-hmm. It was really great up to about 60% of something, right? We were like, yeah, we kind of agree up to here, and then there would be a disagreement and no one could take charge, so we would move to something else and it would just sit there.
There's no process for helping to find some of that stuff. Like, you almost wanted to be like, smash a bottle and set it in the middle and be like, whoever is last standing, like that's who wins. But it was just not a fun development. But at first it was kind of cool because it was like, oh, I'm an animator and I always wanted to be a designer, and I feel like I have good design sensibility. So this allows me to hopefully drive some things from a design standpoint. I can show some people like, hey, just think about it differently. And then some of the things that I was throwing out there, people would gravitate towards. Some things other people threw out there, I would go towards that. So it was this kind of interesting mix. But then you started to crumble really quickly when we're having these like 4-hour meetings and we're having to make these presentations to the directorate or studio directors, and they weren't helping make decisions, or
they were purposefully not making decisions, right? Like,
we're not going to make the decision for you, but we're going to tell you that all these decisions are wrong. So I just remember like there were like all these different pods, and I kept getting frustrated because I would go be a part of this pod. It's like, oh, the player movement pod, you're an animator, go in here. And then we would never make any decisions, and we'd throw out some cool ideas, but like certain people didn't want to pick those ideas or whatever. And it's like, all right, well, you guys clearly have an idea of what you want. I'm going to go over here, right, and see if I can be impactful here. I don't know where I ended up. I think before I left, I was like in charge of some of the agents and stuff like that, which was cool. But there was a moment where, yeah, we had this epiphany that like, we're making a generic dude who's the equivalent of Duke. And if you compare Duke to all the other GI Joes, nobody says they want to be Duke. They want to be Snake Eyes, and they want to be Shipwreck and all these other colorful characters, right? So I remember this so vividly. As an animator, I'm constantly trying to keep like my scope in my head of like how much can we actually animate, but also want to push the limits to make sure it's fun, to make sure the gameplay is king and stuff like that. And I remember coming to you, and I think that was my pitch. I was like, nobody wants to be Duke. I want to be Snake Eyes. I want to be Destro. I want to be all these colorful characters. At the time, Agents of Mayhem was going to be this weird, never before done enter from any door game where you could buy box one, play all of that.
Oh my God, I forgot that.
And then there's like DLC, and you could not buy box one, but you could buy the DLC by itself, play all of that. You could buy box two, and then everything you do in two has to go backwards into one. It was like this stupid thing. It should have never been an idea because it made no sense and it was no benefit to the player, really, right? But what we had talked about was like each box would be, new agents that you could interact with and stuff like that. So I think the pitch went like this: Hey, Jameson, what if each box, if we're going to do 3 boxes, or no, 3 cities. So box one had
Yeah,
3
yeah.
cities. That's
Yep.
what it was. I said, what if we had each city have a unique agent? So when you flew to Moscow, you played as Snake Eyes, and when you flew to Monaco, you played as Scarlet or whatever, right? And then you get a whole new group of agents that you can interact with, and then we'll run some analytics in the background, and we'll see who you interact with the most on those cities, and then we'll use the popular agents as the ones that become the playable characters in the next
Yep.
games and in the side DLCs. And I remember we were both like, this makes so much sense, why shouldn't we do this? So we we made this pitch. We went into like the meeting with I don't remember who was all in the meeting. I
It
know
was
it was me,
all the
you.
studio leadership and
Okay.
us, you know.
Directorate and us two,
Yep.
right? All right. So we go in there and we give the hard pitch. We talk about how it would work. We talk about how we'll use analytics to inform purchases and all this stuff. And it's like, seems pretty cut and dry. And then talk about the ultimate backfire of the studio general manager going, yeah, let's do that, but let's make it 100 agents that you can play as. And then we all leave. Like the meeting just ends and everybody leaves. And I remember going like, oh no. Like
Yay.
that no, we should do 3, not 100.
Right.
And then began the journey of like, how do we get that number down? Because 100 is too many. But we didn't even know what it took to make one.
Yep.
And what did it end up shipping with?
Like a dozen-ish, like somewhere in that
Yeah.
neighborhood. And
At some point, it became like 30.
30 was the number I remember being like our real first number where we're really shooting to that. 30 is the one that's always in my head.
And I remember somebody saying, well, why 30? And they were like, well, Disney Infinity, you could have 22. And it's like, okay, well, why 30? Just do 30.
Is that where it came from? I don't even remember where that
there
number.
were a few, like numbers pulled. And I remember Disney Infinity was one of them.
Oh my gosh, man. So the one piece of that, like leading up to that, was the plan was you would have that character that you could fully customize, all that stuff, and then you would have 2 agents with you, right? There was a part where it's like, okay, it's cool, I can bring a couple other guys, I can augment the stuff, but then we're like, if you really want to make a custom crew, either your main character needs to be able to do everything, or you need to be able to swap out more than just 2 damn characters and really make something unique.
And we had the dream of co-op, which made perfect sense, where it's like 3 characters, my co-op friends can play with me. And then when co-op got cut, it was like, oh God, why am I still playing as 3 people? This is so confusing.
That was such a rough moment, man. I remember in my head going back and forth a lot about co-op's a good call, co-op's a bad call. Like I remember going back and forth about that, and and at the time we were not a Saints Row game at all. Right. Like it was nothing Saints Row. So the reason to not do it was, there's not that expectation, those kind of things. So we're building a whole new game. And the other thing we should talk about is we did 3 major changes for this game. The flat structure you talked about, we built a brand new IP, and we built a whole engine from scratch.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is insane. Yeah. That is insane.
All right. So I want to play a game here. So So I'm going to flip this podcast around. So part of this is I really started getting involved in like the agent creation. Like, okay, that's where people trusted me to like drive some of the like what's cool, right? Like, and I'm not trying to say I'm the end all be all of cool, but I really, through the animation stuff, I think people realized that I was making sensible choices on like fun and entertaining appearances of things and like how we integrate some of the features. So I got pulled in, and it was like, okay, well, now Mr. Smarty Pants, who wants to make 100 characters, like, how do we start defining these? And I was really trying to help define process of like, okay, well, how do we brainstorm? How do we put these things onto like a sheet that people can understand what the characters are going to be? So it was a lot of wrangling tons of people, but
Mm-hmm.
throughout that, I remember some incredible characters that we came up with. I remember some stinkers as well. So I have a list here,
Do you really?
and I want to play a game called Real or Fake Agent.
Oh my gosh, you're killing me. All right.
And
Now,
I'm going to
one
ask you.
caveat, I have a terrible memory, but I think I might be okay at this.
All right. So here we go. You tell me if this is a real or fake agent.
Oh, I'm going to be so bad.
Big Island.
Say it again.
Big Island.
I do not remember that.
Big Island was a real proposed agent.
Was it really?
Yeah, he was a Hawaiian descent like paratrooper.
Oh my gosh, I don't remember that one at all.
Who was afraid of heights. Yep.
Oh my god, afraid of heights, man. Did you keep these? Do you remember this when you made this list, or is this an old list?
A bunch of these. Now, some of these, remember, could be made up.
Oh, that is true. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Junk truck.
That sounds familiar.
That is fake.
What? Oh, I'm gonna be 0%.
Let's see how many you get. I'm gonna keep track.
Junk truck.
Okay, now how about Okie Dokie, the agent who could not turn down a mission?
I don't remember that at all. Is that real?
That's fake.
Okay. Yay, I got one right. Okie dokie. That's a great idea, though.
No matter what command you give him, he always has to do it. All right. Punchline, the stand-up comedian who fought through a comedic conversation system.
Yes, that's real.
That's fake.
What? Are you sure? You killing me.
I'm positive.
Oh.
Well, maybe there was a comedian one, but I don't think we ever had a comedic conversation system as a mechanic.
No, that is true. But early on, we had some really interesting, like, let's throw this cool story behind someone. There had to have been something similar to that, though.
Yeah. All right. How about Mr. Jazzle?
Mr. Jazzle. I don't remember that.
All right. Not real.
Okay, good. Mr. Jazzle.
Dutch, the chef turned bomb expert.
100% real. I remember Dutch.
100% real. Rest in peace, Dutch.
Yeah, I like Dutch.
He was the best.
Yeah.
All right. Bookshelf, knowledge is power.
Do not remember that.
Nah, that's correct. That is not real.
Sweet. I'm up. 4-3.
Funny story. Josh Behrens, who joined us to animate on Agents of Mayhem, his nickname was Bookshelf because day one, his desk was sitting next to the bookshelf.
Oh, the book. Nice. Very creative. I like it.
Yep. How about Flashbang, the tactical seductionist?
Flashbang sounds familiar. Yes.
He is real.
Yes.
Sable, the elderly big game hunter?
Yes, real.
Real. Yep. How about WAP, the wet assault peacekeeper?
No.
Okay, not real.
Yeah.
Totally
WAP.
How about Epico, whose agent ability was just to end himself instantly when you press the right trigger?
Oh no, that's an interesting idea, but I don't think it's real.
It is in fact not real.
Yeah.
Here's one. Tickle Fight, the heavyweight champ of UFC, the Ultimate Fetish Championship.
Okay. I don't remember this, but that sounds like something we would have done, so I'm going to say yes.
It was made up.
I wouldn't be surprised if it were real, but I do not remember it.
Pretty good. I like that one. Tickle Fight. How about Crash Cart? Not a doctor, but a doctor.
Yes, 100% real.
He was the Stone Cold Steve Austin doctor that
Yep.
I wanted in the game so bad. How about Fourth Meal?
No.
No, that's a Taco Bell reference. Gentleman Cover Taker. No mobility, only attached to walls.
No.
No, not real.
Yeah.
All
I'm
right, and the
killing it.
last one. Yeah, you're catching on here. All right, the last one. This is a tricky one. Sir Macula, the elder vampire who sucked the life out of the development team.
I have a feel. All right, so I don't think it was legit, but I could totally see that being something that we put in there as a joke.
Yeah, not real, but real in real life.
Yeah, right. Man, I was 12-4. That's not bad.
You did better than I expected,
Whew,
Jameson.
man. Well, some of those I were legit, like Dutch. I love Dutch. I thought he was great, and
Yeah.
and it was interesting too because like we had so many of the, a lot of that came with the collaboration with the writing department, right? Those guys were so good at coming. Jason Blair, and it was so good at coming up with that kind of stuff. I loved it.
Yeah, it was a great group. Great group.
And we had 100 written up, I think, right? Like I believe we
had so many. I remember there was like one day, like when it first became a thing, before Steve left, we went in Kulas's old office, and me and him, like, we were like, how would this work? And we just sticky noted all over the wall in that entire office. It was insane. We had like personality traits, we had jobs, we had all this stuff, and we were trying to figure out, like, could you come up with like, what happens if I grab this personality trait and this job and this like location in the world, and could you smash them together? Like, we had no idea really how to do it at scale. So
Yeah.
it was,
man, the dream of 100 died quickly, and even the dream of 30, because you were talking about we didn't know how to build them. Man, how long did Fortune take? Fortune was the first one we built, and it was the only one that was done forever.
After I left,
Yeah,
I think it got redone. It took months, easily 6 months to make Fortune.
Yeah, easily.
And then, like I said, I left, and I think you guys continued to work on her.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was, man, for a very long time. I was like, can we get anything else? Like we're building all these areas with one agent that has arguably the best and easiest movement around the world. So man, that was like that is making a false impression on what we're trying to build out here right now.
Yeah, that game did not fail due to anyone's desire for it to be great. There was so much effort put in by everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember I was had a chat with Mike Jungbluth, who took over the animation leadership stuff after I left, and I remember, again, my last year at Volition was definitely like, I was so tired and so burnt out and so frustrated. I just wanted to impact change, and I wanted to help the team move forward, because everybody was getting so frustrated because we couldn't make the decisions to move forward.
Yeah,
and we were just like motorboat in a septic tank, just throwing shit everywhere, trying to figure out what was going to happen. And to me, as a person who has been in a lot of leadership positions and stuff like that is the thing that I wanted to unblock the team as much as possible, and I couldn't do it because it would be 2 steps forward and like 5 backwards. And I think I started stepping on the wrong toes, and in hindsight, like, it was just time for me to go. So I remember telling Mike after Agents shipped, I was like, man, you were the best thing that could have happened to that animation team, because I would have never gotten it all the way across at the quality that those guys did. And it's awesome to see what they did.
It's an important thing to talk about, because burnout is real in multiple ways, right? Like burnout just because you've been working hard for a long time on something is one thing, but I ended up kind of getting in the same spot you were a year or so later, where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like this is no longer a healthy place for me, and which is a big part of why I moved on. And it's tough because, and it's not necessarily that that it is a bad place to be. It's that where you are mentally at that time, and where everything is and how it's being run are just not jiving, and it's going to take too much to fix.
And the answer there is, for me, it was not where I needed to be.
Right.
Right. and I was going to, and rightfully so in some ways, was negatively impacting others
Hmm.
around me who were trying to be positive, right?
Right.
So in that situation, like the best advice I give people is don't, this advice has been given to me multiple times, and now I operate in this way, is like, don't ruin someone else's perception of things that make them happy,
Yeah.
right? If other people are happy, that's cool. Like, let them be happy. If you're not happy, then go fix yourself.
Yeah.
But so I think that was the big thing for me, is like I had to fix myself, and by fixing myself, I think I was so frustrated because I had been the lead and a director for so long, and I wanted to help the team move forward and make decisions. And we were just in this weird development style where no one could make decisions and nothing was moving forward. So I left and went and took a job not in a leadership position. I was like,
Hmm.
I don't want to be a lead. I just want to go like animate, just
Yep.
go do something in the corner and like tell me what to do, give me my list, and I'll knock it out to the highest quality that you want. But like, don't ask me for a decision because
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it.
I've spent too much time trying to make decisions that I can't make.
But only to find out that when I did that, it's just in my personality to want to try and like move things forward. So while I did that on, went and worked with Cliffy B's startup on Lawbreakers and was just an animator on that. And then at some point, you know, 2 years into development, I found myself in a position where I'm driving the team and pushing the team to like ship this thing. I had branched into doing game design and animation, and like just kind of was a de facto leader in some ways. So I think it's just the personality that like people are always going to try and to lead if it feels like the team needs that type of stuff. So,
Yep. That's I 100% understand that, because that's kind of the way I am too. I left leadership to come to Volition. I was like, just make me a senior designer. I just want to come and one, get the lay of the land, right? Like I think respect needs to be earned, and I think, if someone's going to listen to me, I think they should know why, and they should want to do that, right? But it
yep.
wasn't within a year that I was, lead level designer on Armageddon, right? So it's just those kind of things happen for people that naturally move into leadership positions, and I think that's okay.
Yep, that's right.
So
And then,
we're at a spot right now where we only have 10 minutes left,
whew,
and we have so much more to talk about. So
we do. Yeah,
are you cool with us scheduling another time for you to come back on?
absolutely, man. I've had a blast. This has been great.
Okay, good. So
Yeah,
then,
I just looked at the clock and I was like, oh wow, we've only touched on half of my career.
yep. It's funny when I'll talk to people, I'm like, it's about a couple hours. Like, oh man, what am I going to talk about for a couple of hours? And then they get done, like, oh man, that went by way too fast. So,
Yeah. So yeah, I'm happy to come back. We can touch on the Lawbreakers, Boss Key development time, Radical Heights craziness, and how I ended up where I'm at now.
yeah, man, that's exciting. We definitely have 2 more hours worth of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, I'll come up with some more agents for next time too.
Nice. All right, that's cool. So one thing I do want to do is, if people want to get in touch with you and ask you questions, what's a good way for them to do that? What do you prefer?
I prefer Twitter. I'm relatively active on there, so at ZLowFo Show. So I'll drop it in the chat,
Sweet.
but I'll also spell it out too. So
Perfect.
ZLOW, the numerical 4 SHO.
Nice.
And there it is,
Perfect. Awesome.
which is also my Twitch name, apparently.
There you go. You did it. Not everybody gets that, the thing that same name for everything. So that's good.
Yeah.
All right, man. So we'll connect, figure out a time for you to come back. This has been great. And I think we definitely have a lot more stuff we can touch on. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'd love to chat more. Thanks for having me. Thanks everybody for jumping on here. We got a couple of minutes. I don't know if you got anything for me or if we're just done. I'm out.
It's up to you, man. If there's anything else you want to cover, we do have a few minutes, or if anybody's got a question they want to throw in. But there's so many things that's in my head. I'm like, I want to ask this, but there's probably plenty of time. That's a really good thing. Is there anything you want to plug right now? Anything you're working on, or something specifically that you want to talk about, or you want to save that for next time?
Just living life, man. Can't even spell it.
Oh, we
do Matthew McConaughey.
that's right. All right, all right. We the other thing we haven't touched on at all is the cooking you've been doing lately, and I'm looking forward to talking about that stuff too.
Let's include it in the next one, man. I'm happy to talk about it.
Definitely, because when I posted, someone was like, "The chef," I'm like, "Yes, the chef is coming on."
I've been known to cook a meal, so yeah, let's do it.
All right, man. Well, I think this is a good spot for us to finish up. I'm going to jump over, say my goodbyes. I really appreciate it, and we'll find some time to do it again soon.
Thanks for having me, homie. Talk to you later.
All right, man. Talk to you soon. Later.